And I say that only because sex education in the US is a nightmare. Like and it has been for years. I think a lot of the fear that comes along with working in those treating spaces it's just like a lack of knowledge, right? Like it's just like our own biases, it's our own understanding of sexuality and stuff like that. Let's scale it back for a second. Like when we talk about individuals with special needs and disabilities, 96% of people with disabilities have never contacted any sex education whatsoever.
All right, guys, we're live day 2 at the FABA conference in Ponte Vedra, and we're here with Dr. Shane Spiker. Am I saying that right?
Yes, so far.
Awesome. Clinical training and safety director at PBS Corp, professor, published researcher, and all-around coffee lover?
Oh, dude, I drink way too much coffee. It's probably giving me some problems. I should probably get that checked out.
Welcome to the show, guys.
Yes, sir. I wish you had a drink too.
I wish we did. You know, when we're not at conferences, we have our little adult beverages out, but we gotta be clean here. So, yeah, how you enjoying FABA so far? Tell us about it.
Oh man, I love FABA. I've been coming for I think since 2011. So, and I just feel like it's the best conference. Like I get to travel a lot because I speak at a lot of conferences, and this one always feels like it's the most homey. It feels like it's like a high school reunion for me because I came up with everybody, and this is the first year that I've come on as an elected official. So now I'm coming in as a different capacity. It's a super honor. I have no idea what I'm doing, so we'll figure that out. So you know,
yeah. For you, in terms of FABA, and just why is it such an important place here for community in Florida? What makes it so special?
I think the behavior analysis community in Florida is pretty unique because it's got such deep roots. I mean, the board started here, and there's just so much going on. I mean, this is the 45th FABA conference, and right now the climate in Florida, especially around behavior analysis, is so turbulent. Like, you know, you hear that Florida is almost like a bad word to the BACB because of all the things going on. And so like, I think there's a lot of things happening here that are really important. And I do think Florida sets a precedent for a lot of other states in a lot of different ways. So I think that having a conference like this, where you've got a mixture of incredible speakers, you've got a really huge student contingent that are coming in. I mean, I got to sit in a bunch of student talks yesterday that were just absolutely amazing, and you get a lot of this experience, which is really cool. It's really varied. I feel like there's easy points of entry if you are a student and want to speak. I feel like you get the opportunity to see people like John Bailey, Jim Carr. You get to see Sarah Lachego tomorrow, which is going to be great. I mean, you get to see all these folks that are just really big names in the field that are these important researchers just doing cool things. So I just feel like it's got a nice mix more than anything.
As an avid conference chaser, what are some of your favorite topics or favorite kind of talks to go to when you're traveling around or you're at FABA, right? Like how do you decide which talks to go to and which ones do you kind of look for?
So if you want like a real answer, like my like boring answer, it's that I always kind of go with like what I need clinically and what is going to enhance my day-to-day practice. So I actually plan out my professional development all year, where I go, okay, so I'm really into assessment, so I really want to stay in assessment, and I want to make sure I'm catching up on that. I really am interested in making sure that we're looking at like new data analysis and stuff like this. But the truth is also too, I like to grab all the weird stuff that people talk about. So anytime somebody's like doing something off the wall, like there was a talk this morning that was about prosthetic environments and working with dementia, and that's kind of like, that sounds amazing. I would love to go to that. I personally gravitate towards a lot of ethics talks if they're not just people reciting the ethics code. I work in sexuality and crisis and forensics. And so like in those spaces, I always like to kind of, and self-care too. So like in those 4 areas, I always try to grab stuff on that.
That's pretty cool. So as you were saying, I like this stuff. So you work with teens and adults.
Yes, that's been my whole career.
And dangerous and sexual problem behaviors, right?
Yeah.
So I work with, I love working with the teens too. I've got a couple boys who engage in certain behaviors in public that we always have to continue to work on. What led you into this area, and what advice do you give to, I would say, newer business owners? Because this is a this is like a real thing.
Yeah.
Right? So, and it's coming, right? Because puberty hits at 14, and now all of my kiddos are like, you know, Mr. Adams, what am I going to do today? So I'm just like,
take a longer shower.
So, you know, just give me practical advice on like how to deal with that, because I think a lot of people don't know.
So I think the most practical thing is just getting more education on stuff. And I say that only because sex education in the U.S. is a nightmare.
It is.
And it has been for years. And I think a lot of the fear that comes along with working in those treating spaces it's just like a lack of knowledge, right? Like it's just like our own biases, it's our own understanding of sexuality and stuff like that. So because I mean, let's scale it back for a second. Like when we talk about individuals with special needs and disabilities, 96% of people with disabilities have never contacted any sex education whatsoever.
Correct.
So that's the first thing. The second thing is our field primarily works with inappropriate sexual behavior. We don't talk about puberty and stuff like that. Our literature is almost entirely inappropriate sexual behavior. So, and what you'll find is if you really spend time in it, is like it's not inappropriate. It's not inappropriate in terms of like what the behavior is. It's where it's happening.
Correct.
Right. So, and that is one of the unique problems that comes up a lot is people. Public masturbation is one that comes up all the time, and people get really nervous about that. But it's like the behavior itself is not inappropriate; it's where they're doing it.
Yeah.
So a lot of it's like getting really good at discrimination training, you know, like stuff like that.
No.
But I honestly think that the biggest thing is like getting training, getting education, getting mentorship, getting consultation, and really reaching out to folks that are doing it and there are people in the field that are doing really cool things in different ways. Like, you know, you've got Barb Gross who's doing porn literacy. You've got Warner Leland who's doing really cool work around gender studies and safety and harm reduction. You've got Landa Fox who's doing like pleasure seeking behaviors and doing preference assessments for like adult toys. So like there's people that are doing really cool things out there and they're just kind of buried in it because the field is like really turbulent and disruptive right now. But so practically speaking, get some training, get some education, just reach out. I mean,
Dr. Shane Spiker, I think I'm gonna reach out.
By all means. And you know, I personally, like the first time somebody reaches out to me, I always spend like the first hour, I do a consult for free just to kind of like talk through stuff. And what I find is most behavior analysts know what they're doing. They're just, it's like, because if you were to take that same behavior and say, okay, this is aggression, people are like, oh, I got that.
Yeah.
But then when you hear this behavior, people go, oh, it's like, but it follows the same functions.
It does.
There's plenty of treatment options. It's all there. So it's just a matter of just like being confident in your skills and being able to generalize that sometimes too. Yeah.
So you know, one thing that I love about you, and you may not know this, I've heard you talk several times, kind of has been in the crowd. And one thing that I always love about you always make yourself accessible. You always say, hey, you know, like personally reach out. And I feel it when you say like, reach out to me. You know, some people, they may do presentations to talk, but you know, they don't really make themselves accessible like you do. So I really appreciate that about you.
Yeah, thank you. I really try hard at that, man. I have a hard time with pedestals. So like it's one of those things where and I think our field is really ripe for this too, which is really nice. Our field has the opportunity to we can connect with people right away. Like you can send an email to somebody and be like, hey, can you send me this article? And they'll respond to you. And I think people are afraid to do that. And I just kind of want to normalize like just talking to people, you know? So
Now, speaking of articles, you've published several articles. What recent one that you've published would you say has led to a shift in our practice and one that's most meaningful for you?
So that's a great question. We have a couple that are in the works, and I think that, there's some really cool things coming out, and I've been able to collaborate with some folks. So I want to keep that down until like those come out. But I think that the two that really I really love is the Humble Behaviorism paper that came out a couple of years ago. That just took on a life of its own. I was not expecting people to take that on as much as they did. I got invited to speak on that, which was really pretty wonderful. And Trina Spencer and Megan Kerben Sullivan are just like incredible people. So like they asked me to come do a little bit on it. And I was like, sure, I'll tweak it. And that just took on a life of its own and had a really big impact. So I think that one is probably the most impactful. More recently, we had the article with Louis Bush in Canada that we got to write with some folks, some Indigenous folks, and talk about like how ethics systems interact with one another and kind of talking about ways to talk about that because, behavior analysts, we have our ethics code. So we're like, here's what the BACB says. Yeah. And so it's cool to be able to say like, well, there's other ethics systems that are at play and how they interact. So that one was really cool too. But I do think for me, probably the most impactful one was my dissertation. I got to write on self-care, and I got to talk about how behavior analysts just don't. I went into it. The problem was I went into it and I was like, okay, let's talk about self-care. Like, I wonder, I knew going in that the answer was going to be, because the question was, how do behavior analysts engage in self-care? And the answer was, we don't. I knew that going in. Interview 10 people and consistently 100%. Absolutely, we don't do anything. We've never been trained in it. We don't do it. We're burning out. And we know that there's a recent study that came out that said something like 80 to 87% of the field is burning out.
Oh yeah,
it's just wild. So
number.
Yeah, it's an unreasonable number.
So, Dr. Shane, you're a man of many hats.
Sure.
So with everything you were talking about, right, you teach as well.
Mm-hmm.
So can you talk a little bit more about kind of your experience as a professor teaching? But then I guess my question would be, how much do you kind of embed kind of what you talk about now in your approach to science with any current events that's going on? Like, do you, like with how you sort of shape the mind of the younger professionals and trying to get them ready and prepared for the practice or just for the real world in general?
Yeah, I am a big believer in questioning the answer. I think I came from a space where, growing up, I came from like a punk rock space, and so that always kind of made you go, well, why does anybody think this? Why do we believe this? Why are we accepting this? And so, entering an academic space, we're talking about science and we're talking about procedures, and I love getting my students to kind of go, well, why? Why are we doing that? And, I think from an outside perspective, it's hard to imagine like a punk ethos coming into a behavioral science. But I do think that like behavior science is 100% like a very punk rock science. Like, it's very it came out from a space where everybody was like, no way, language is innate. And then we were like, nah, guys, like, check this out. Like, so, there is a little bit of that, but I love just getting people to like critically think and like really think deeply about, what are you doing? Why are you doing it? Why is this important? When it comes to ethics and people are like, oh, that's unethical. I go, well, why? Tell me why. And, I think that from a practical standpoint, I learned that from the punk rock community, but I have to thank specifically Bill Carlucci and Ed Blakely for teaching me to kind of think about that too. I'll never forget the first time I did a functional analysis. We were in a group home and we were working with this learner who had like really severe SIB, and we called in Dr. Ed Blakely to come in and help with this functional analysis. We run the conditions and we go outside, and he stops and he goes, okay, guys, well, what do you think? What do you think about that? And we were like, we don't know, dude. Like, that's why we called you. You're the expert. And he's like, oh yeah, okay, yeah, that's fair. Okay, but like, what do you think? And I was like, so he kind of pushed me to think like that, and that's how I approach teaching, is like getting people to really think deeply about that, and also sharing diverse examples. Yeah. I think it's really easy to go, oh, well, I work with this autistic child in the clinic, and here's what we do with verbal behavior and da-da-da-da. But I'm like, okay, well, here's, an example of a prison, and here's an example of what it's like to work in a group home, and here's like what it looks like to work as a supervisor, and how to shape your trainees' behavior. So I always try to include those examples too, to kind of really push those boundaries a little bit.
Yeah, that's pretty cool.
Yeah, it's fun.
Guys, you're listening to Beyond the Science. We are live here with the one and only Dr. Shane Spiker. Joe, I think you have a question for Shane.
I do. Not on the script. What's your favorite college football team?
Oh, man. So I got to admit, I'm not much of a football fan.
Okay, that's okay. Good answer.
But I will say, growing up, I was a Seminoles fan. I got accepted. I got accepted to FSU.
They just beat a team that I know. They just beat Alabama. Aren't you Alabama fan?
Get off me, man. But you're not a Seminole now, right?
No. It's there. That was the only major college I got accepted to when I was coming up, and then before I dropped out and I had to live a lot of life real quick. But I was a Seminoles fan growing up. I don't know what it was. It was kind of like. As a baseball fan, I'm more of a baseball guy.
I see the Pittsburgh.
It's Pittsburgh. My family's from Pittsburgh. But the city I lived in, everybody loved the Braves, and I couldn't stand the Braves. I was so annoyed, man. I was so annoyed. Well, it was because we didn't have a good Florida team either. So I was mad that all my Florida friends liked the Braves. We had the Marlins and the Devil Rays, and they weren't doing nothing. At least in the 90s. So I was like, I was mad at the Braves. I was a Pirates fan. I had a little chip on my shoulder. But now I'm okay with them. Yeah. I'm fine with the Braves now. I was, for a little bit, I was a Red Sox fan, and then they turned into the Yankees. And they're the new Yankees. Like, they got too much money. They sold out. I know I upset a lot of people people. I know this, so I'm sorry. If I hear that, right?
Go ahead, Wes.
Oh no. So just real quick, you have a pretty strong online presence. I think you do a couple things. So for yourself, you have your own little kind of podcast, maybe.
Yeah.
Yeah. Can you talk about kind of what you talk about, but I guess the main topic of those and what you kind of get into and sort of that side of who Shane is?
Yeah. So I think that I think a good place to start with that is I just like to disseminate. Like I think it's one of those things where people think I just like to talk a lot. I do.
You do.
But I think the main thing is I just like to disseminate our science. I believe in it. I am passionate about it. I've seen the change that it can make. And so I like to share the science, and I like to share it in a way that's accessible. I think that there's times where, you hear people talk about our science and it's really stuffy and it's just you're just kind of like, okay, it creates a barrier to entry for this really powerful thing that we all experience. And so for me, I think the one podcast I'm on is called Why We Do What We Do. And it's really a psychology podcast more than anything. And what we do is we'll take some topic and we'll unpack it from a behavioral perspective. And so like we've done episodes on mad cow disease, and we did a whole suite on sexuality. And we did a whole suite on like specifically autism and ABA and like some of the criticisms that are leveraged against ABA too. And really tried to unpack that from a really a fair perspective. And so we really, a lot of the conversations are around that. It's like taking some topic that's really interesting, unpacking it from behavioral science, and really looking at the science itself and saying like, what does this actually look like? So that's just me just being like, I guess that's maybe another way of me going, well, actually, this is, so that's maybe kind of the behavioral science of me doing that, but it's a lot of fun, and I just enjoy talking about what we do. So.
And then my very last question, because I got to ask, do you have any things in the rumbles of any new writings or publications coming out?
Yes, I have. So we have right now, I think we've got about 10 papers that we're working on that are going to come out hopefully in the next couple of years, next couple of weeks, months even. And then I think I'm working on maybe 6 books that are like in the works in different ways.
At the same time? At
the same time, yeah. Well, I drink a lot of coffee. So
he said that so like 6 books that I'm working on.
So, and that's actually everybody always asks.
Clinical director, safety director, father, husband,
professor.
Wow.
Professor, yeah. So everybody asks how I do it, and my joke answer is it's cocaine. That doesn't usually go well. So I usually the actual answer is like I myself am hypomanic. So like I don't sleep very much, and I can move pretty quickly. So. Yeah, so I got some stuff in the works. Yeah,
that's awesome. Cool, and speaking of coffee, we got to ask you, what's your go-to coffee order when you're at the conferences?
Oh, it's
bourbon,
iced coffee, bourbon. So as far as bourbon goes, I tend to like Tullamore Dew. I like whiskey, Irish whiskey. Okay, so like just a nice smooth Irish whiskey. So and cheap too, so I can afford it. But as far as coffee goes, just a nice iced coffee with a little bit of soy milk and a little bit of sweetener. That's usually if I could, I would get a French press, but I don't like to hassle anybody.
I love it. I have one last question for you that's more of a serious question. You've kind of seen a lot in that field. You've been around for a while. I'm curious, where do you want to see our field, let's say in the next 10 years? Like what changes would you want to see when you can say, hey, this is, 2030 or 2035, that I want to kind of see that change in ABA?
Yeah, that's a great question. I more than anything, I just want to see that expansion and accessibility to that expansion. I think that it's wonderful, the work that we do. I think that working in disabilities, that's been my entire career. I've worked with disabilities my entire career. And I think that that's powerful, and I think it's amazing, and I think it's impactful. But I hope that, and it's really kind of a twofold hope. One, I hope that we're able to disseminate in a better way to improve our science and to ensure that we are working in spaces that we haven't really worked in before. But I hope that we go back to what it means to be a good scientist practitioner. Mm-hmm. And I think that for me, a good scientist practitioner is working on socially significant problems in pragmatic ways that are truly helpful for the people that are telling us they need it. And I think that also means listening to people, listening to those criticisms of our field. When we hear stuff, we can't be immediately defensive and go, oh, that's not what it is. We have to go, well, why is that in strength in their repertoire? Why are they saying these things? And we should critically self-reflect about why we're hearing those things. Yeah. And I hope that we can get to a place where we can have that honest discourse and we can have those discussions, because we're not anywhere, and that's true for society. But like, I hope that happens more, and we can kind of be leaders in that space of going, this is what conversation looks like. This is what compromise looks like. This is what actual discussion and fixing problems will look like if we can actually collaborate. I don't think that we're anywhere near that right now. So that's my biggest hope. Whatever we do beyond that and wherever our science evolves is a whole nother thing. I just hope that we can like figure out a way to have like a common language to kind of improve and work together more than we are right now.
Yeah.
So
I love that.
Yeah.
Well, Shane, thank you so much for before we get out of here, what can our listeners find you?
The best place is, so I work at PBS, so teampbs.com. That's usually where I do all of our training stuff, and you'll see most of that stuff. But the best place is probably Instagram. I'm at Dr. Shane T. Spiker, and I usually can include all my links and stuff on there, and like all the different publications and stuff. So
yeah, we'll link everything that we get to in our episode.
Cool.
Thank you guys so much for joining us for another episode of Beyond the Science. Thanks, Shane. Thank you I know you're a busy man for taking time out with us today.
Thank you for shifting the schedule.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. And guys, we'll be here more with some more episodes. We'll see you guys soon.
Wait.
Thank you.